Fadeout, a Day Brandstetter mystery, Book 1, author Joseph Hansen, publisher University of Wisconsin Press, Terrace Books, 1970, narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 10. 3 hours later at San Fernando, he caught up with the rain again. It hissed under the tires as he curved along the freeway into Hollywood. He hadn't eaten, and he needed to. He had lost too much weight. Traffic on Sunset was heavy and slow. When he reached Romano's, it was late. There were only a couple of cars left in the parking lot, reflecting neon signs. The puddles he stepped through were like paintings drawing in ink. The familiar stained glass windows smiled welcome. He pushed onto steamy warmth, good smells of cheese and garlic. Fat Max was there to take his coat, big smile full of gold fillings. "Mr. Brandstetter? You're a stranger. Where you been? Where's Mr. Fleming?" "Dead. Max, cancer." And when the old Italian's good-natured face crumpled with shock and pity, Dave turned fast for the bar. "Make it lasagna with sausages tonight. Garlic toast, big salad, vino. Give me 20 minutes. "I'm sorry about Mr. Fleming. We'll miss him." "Thanks." The bar, dark woods and leather stained glass lanterns, was not big, but it was nearly empty. Rain could do that to business in L.A. There was only one other customer, a woman. He noticed her without looking at her. The bartender he didn't know. That was good. He wouldn't have to say it again about Rod. It wasn't martini weather, but that was what he ordered, hoping it would make him hungry. He started a cigarette and went to work on the drink. Then the woman slid onto the stool next to his. This could happen at Romano's? Still, he'd never sat here alone before. Rod had always been with him. He picked up the martini and had one foot on the floor when he smelled her perfume and knew who she was. The scent was Russia leather. Had been for 20 years. The woman was Madge Dunstan. Had been for 45 years. Old friend. She had introduced him and Rod to Romano's in 1948. He turned back. "Madge," he said. Her smile was gently reproachful. "I have been worried about you. I phoned every day as I said I would." At the funeral, she told him she didn't expect him to answer. She'd rung the bell to let him know she was there and caring. "Then I thought I'd better look at you in the flesh and drove to your house and your car was gone, and I started worrying. I should have told you. That was rude as hell. I went back to work." A cigarette hung in the corner of her wide, humorous mouth. He lit it for her. "A policyholder disappeared up in San Joaquin Valley. I'm only down here now to follow up a lead." Freckled and bony, her hand squeezed his. "I'm glad you're all right." "I'm not all right," he said. "I'm working at it, but I'm a long way from it." "You're terribly thin," she said. "I'm counting on Max to cure that." He drank and looked at her. "What are you doing here so late and alone? Where's the golden girl?" He didn't remember the girl's name. She was sun-toasted and had smooth boy features and muscular legs and strong white teeth and a loud laugh, but so did most of Madge's girls. He had watched maybe a score of them come and go. She took away her hand and poked at the ashtray with her cigarette. Her mouth tried for a wry smile. "Gone. Not with the wind, with the rain and I." She had a husky laugh that often turned to a cough. It did so now. She shook her head ruefully. "I'm sitting here going through the motions of feeling sorry for myself and lonely and forsaken, repeating a ritual I began too many years ago to count, and perfected through a number of farewell performances. But actors wear out roles. I've worn out this one. I can't do it anymore. The sketch wasn't hard when I understood it was 50% fake, when I was young enough to know at the back of my mind there'd be another girl soon, and if that one left, another. I don't know that anymore, so the fun's gone out of mourning." She glanced at him quickly. "Sorry, wrong word." "Don't apologize." He gave her a crooked smile. "If you're shrewd, you're shrewd. Come on, sit with me while I eat." He got off his stool and handed her off hers. In tailored slacks and an expensive duffel coat, she looked young, her gauntness passed for slimness. The soft lights helped. She'd been putting booze away and walked a little unsteadily. It was all right. He respected her excuse. "I'm sorry you're hurting." He held a chair for her at a corner table that was lit by a fat amber candle. But I'm glad I found you here. So am I. She picked up a smile and discarded it. Funny thing, I have that feeling whenever I see you. Always have. She cocked her head, blinking. Actually, I don't know anybody else I can say that about. The girl, whoever she is, when she's new? Her mouth tightened at one corner. The new wears off. Max waddled over. Will Miss Dunstan eat now? Dave stared. You mean she hasn't? Miss Dunstan, Madge said, I will steal some of Mr. Brandstetter's garlic toast, and that will be enough for Miss Dunstan. Thanks, Max. Max shook his head in worried disapproval, but he never argued. He went away somewhere. He had a record player hidden. Now he made it work. Songs from a Neapolitan street organ. Verdi, jangling, and off-key to Dave. It was like a blow in the stomach. He half stood, startled, alarmed. Madge caught his sleeve. What's wrong? The stupid music. I wish he hadn't done that. Jesus! Italians! But it wasn't Max's fault. Dave raked a hand through his hair and dropped into the chair again. Funny. His laugh was bleak. Many's the time I've sat here and sworn at Rod under the cover of that beautiful, awful record. Now he's not here. It breaks my heart. Tears blurred his eyes. He looked away quickly across the muted room to where the steel doors of pizza ovens gleamed beyond a high brick counter. But Verdi's going to be around for a long time, isn't it? Traviata's going to keep dying. I'm going to have to learn to ignore it. Madge's face was scribbled with sympathy. He smiled. Did you know she was a terrible liar? Said lying kept her teeth white. Madge squinted. Who? Marguerite Gautier. Camille Traviata. The salad came. He busied his hands with the oil. The vinegar, the peppermill. Watching him, she mused aloud. Maybe it does. I've always been wedded to the truth. You should see my Dennisville. Whereas Cuff, that was the sunburned girl's improbable name, Cuff, could lie from dawn till dark, and look, Ma, no cavities. Her expressions hardened abruptly. You know, Davy, I'm sick of liars. I'm sick of kids. I'm sick of pretty girls who trade on their prettiness. I am F-E-D, fed. U-P, up. He spoke with a mouthful of salad. Pick an ugly one next time. He dabbed olive oil from his chin with his napkin. Find some lonely, simple-hearted plain Jane of 40. I've told you that before. And I've told you a relationship without sex isn't worth having. It was an old debate. It came up regularly every time Madge was reassembling the broken pieces after an affair. They were always that with Marge. None of them lasted more than a few months. He always gave her the same advice. Find someone your own age and mentality and background. She always ignored it. Next week, next month, another junior grade design student, paint-smeared helper in the silk screen shop would be actress, swimmer, model, tennis player, singer. Madge was herself a successful and well-heeled designer of textiles and wallpapers. Hard-working, clever, an achiever, somebody with a lot to give. Easy, amusing, informed, none of the usual lesbian paranoia. Decent, too. Down to the ground. But the nice girls she found to bed could give no more than sweetness, which she can't live on, and the rest, the majority, was simply takers. It had been a sad pageant to watch. He asked, why should it have to be without sex? Because you can't make yourself want sex with somebody. It happens or it doesn't happen. She gave a sour, soundless laugh. For me, it always happens wrong. You just know Keats died young. Beauty is not truth, and truth is not beauty. The two words don't even belong in the same dictionary. The wine came, the garlic toast, the steaming lasagna. The waiter brought 2 glasses. Madge began work on hers right away. There was salad left in the big wooden bowl. She attacked that too and tore into the garlic toast. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then, when he filled her glass again, she picked it up and studied him over its rim. Very grave. I'm through chasing beauty. Cuff was the last. Dave told her. There was a guy in the army, name of George Starkovich. One of the ugliest men I ever saw. Squat, hairy, but inside he was beautiful. He was one of the nicest things that ever happened to me in my life. She shut her eyes a second and nodded. I remember you've told me any number of times. The point is lost on me, Davy. Sorry if it can't be beautiful, I don't want it, and if it is beautiful, it's not worth having. She drank from the glass, set it down businesslike, and her tone was brisk. Granted, it took me a long time to figure it out. Figure it out, I have done, and things are going to be different from now on. The lasagna was as good as ever, maybe better. He had a mouthful of it and could only raise his eyebrows to ask her to go on. Sex and companionship are mutually exclusive. Too bad, but a fact. Anyway, a fact for me. However, one gets more important as the other gets less right. He held out his hands and shrugged. I'm getting old, Davy. O-L-D, old. He swallowed. You, Madge, never. Me most of all, she said. When the thought of merry, girlish chatter is enough to send you pawing through the medicine chest for that old set of earplugs, you've had it. You're old. You begin wanting some nice, quiet, grown-up company. Somebody restful. Sex? You dimly remember something about it, a game for kids. Strenuous. You want to stretch limp in your easy chair and listen to Mozart quartets. You're getting at something, he said. Sideways. That's not like you, Madge. I know it. She looked away. Her fingers turned the wine glass by its stem. It tipped, and she righted it clumsily and fussed for longer. Then kneaded with the red splash on the cloth. Then she looked up at him, and her eyes were little girl-wide. I'm talking about living with you. He could only stare. You're alone. Nobody's ever going to take Rod's place. You've got to leave that house. You know you do, and I'm alone too, and I've got lots of space. She had big white rooms full of sunlight and the sea gleaming blue beyond. We've been friends since man descended from the trees. We're comfortable together. She lowered her head, but her eyes were still on him, anxious. Aren't we? She meant this in dead earnest, and he was sorry, because she was wrong. About herself, for openers, Cuff had left scars, but they would heal about him. About him, because somebody would take Rod's place. Who he couldn't say, but he would find somebody. Until this minute, he hadn't known that. He knew it now. He half rose, leaned across the table, and kissed her forehead, solemn and brotherly. Then he sat down again and took hold of her skinny hands. Do you know these lines, Madge? The weight of the world is love. Under the burden of solitude, under the burden of dissatisfaction, the weight we carry is love. She stared at him for a moment, then tears brimmed her eyes and started down her face. She groped in her big, over-the-shoulder handbag for Kleenex. She blotted the tears, blew her nose, her mouth quivered, her voice was thin and sad, and wobbly. I wanted to set the weight down, she said. He shook his head and gave her a small, regretful smile. Not bloody likely, he said. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.